والشمس وضحاها والقمر إذا تلاها والنهار إذا جلاها والليل إذا يغشاها والسماء وما بناها والأرض وما طحاها ونفس وما سواها فألهمها فجورها وتقواها قد أفلح من زكاها وقد خاب من دساها كذبت ثمود بتقواها إذ انبعث أشقاها فقال لهم رسول الله ناقة الله وسقياها فكذبوه فأقروها فدمدم عليهم ربهم بذنبهم فسواها ولا يخاف عقباها صدق الله العلي العظيم.
ये हमारे भाई के ग्रैंडसन सज्जाद कुरान की तिलावत से शुरू कर रहे हैं आज का प्रोग्राम, तो इंशाल्लाह उनके लिए दुआ करिए। और ये मजलिस जो है और ये गैदरिंग सबिहा जाफरी जिसका 2 दिन पहले इंतकाल हुआ, उनके लिए मजलिस एसाले सवाब, तो उनके लिए भी जो है बिनते डॉटर ऑफ सैयद अली अकबर, तो उनके लिए एक फातिहा शुरू करें और मजलिस का और ये मीटिंग का आगाज शुरू करेंगे इंशाल्लाह। बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम अल्हम्दुलिल्लाहि रब्बिल आलमीन अर्रहमानिर्रहीम मालिक यौमिद्दीन इय्याका नअबुदु व इय्याका नस्तईन इहदिनस सिरातल मुस्तक़ीम सिरातल लज़ीना अनअमता अलैहिम गैरिल मग़ज़ूबि अलैहिम वलस्सालिन। बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम क़ुल हुवल्लाहु अहद अल्लाहुस समद लम यलिद व लम यूलद व लम यकुन लहू कुफुवन अहद। बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम क़ुल हुवल्लाहु अहद अल्लाहुस समद लम यलिद व लम यूलद व लम यकुन लहू कुफुवन अहद। अल्लाहुम्मा सल्लि अला मुहम्मदिन व आलि मुहम्मद। और यूनुस
जी
बिस्मिल्लाह
अभी मरसिया
शुरू कर
तिलावत
दें।
की जाए। जी अच्छी बात है। फैजान अब आपसे मैं रिक्वेस्ट करता हूँ कि आप मरसिया शुरू करें। बिस्मिल्लाह।
सलवात
अल्लाहुम्मा सल्लि अला मुहम्मदिन व आलि मुहम्मद। हो सका तो पूरा मरसिया पढ़ दें। बिस्मिल्लाह, लोग आके सेटल हो रहे हैं।
सलामी लैनो ने क्या क्या जफा की नशा की हुई आल मुश्किल कुशा की सलामी। ये माना है तस्लीमो सब्र और रिज़ा के कातिल के हक में भी शैने, कातिल के हक में भी शैने न छूटी दमे मर्ग तक फातिमा से इताअत अली की इबादत खुदा की रहे हाथ चकी से मजरू दोनों रहे हाथ चकी से मजरू दोनों ये हालत थी मखदूम ये कहती थी अली वक्त गारत। कुछ है शिम्र कीमत नहीं इस विदा की, मेरे सर पर लिल्ला रहने दे सको, मेरे सर पर लिल्ला रहने दे सको, कि ये कोना चादर खैरो तमाशाई कहते थे कूफे में हंसकर, ये सर नंगे ज़ैनब है खुदरत खुदा की, उठा रात को जिसकी माँ का जनाजा, उठा रात को जिसकी माँ का जनाजा, वो अब देखो मोहताज है, न बांधो मेरे हाथ, कहती थी ज़ैनब न बांधो मेरे हाथ, कहती थी ज़ैनब लाइनों में बेटी हूँ मुश्किल कुशा की सलामी। जनाब है बिल्किस पास बाह ये किसकी जनाब है, मरियम दुरूद ख़्वाह है ये किसकी जनाब है, शान खुदाया है ये किसकी जनाब है, दहलीज़ आसमाए किसकी जनाब है, कुर्सी ज़मीं से लेती है गोशे पनाह के, बैठा है अर्श साए में किस, बैठा है अर्श साए में किस बारगाह के, बेटे पुकारते हैं कि लिल्लाह बहरा गुलामों पर हम खाओ, नाना कहाँ गए हैं, बुला लाए हम बताओ, हम कपड़े फाड़ते नहीं तो गले लगा, हम कपड़े फाड़ते नहीं तो गले लगा, नाना के बाद हाय बेकद्र हम हुए, सब एक तरफ हुजूर के भी, सब एक तरफ हुजूर के भी प्यार कम हुए, आखिर वो पूरे गिरिया से आजिज़ हुए हैदर के पास रोने की फरियाद लाए सब की अर्ज फातिमा से, कहो ऐ वलिए राम या सैयदा तुम्हारी रैयत है जाबला, खाने का कोई वक्त ना, सोने का वक्त है, जो वक्त है वो आपके वक्त है वो आपके रोने का वक्त है। से मुर्तजा गए घर में झुकाए सर, मुँह पे रो रही थी, अकेली वो खुशियाँ देने लगे पयामे, अरब शाहे बरोबर घबरा के बोली हाय करूं क्या मैं बेपिता, घबरा के बोली हाय करूं क्या मैं बेपिता, घबरा के बोली हाय करूं क्या मैं बेपिता। बाबू में मौत होवे तो मर जाओ याली, बाबा का सोग लेके किधर, बाबा का सोग लेके किधर, बाबा का सोग लेके किधर मर जाओ याली। तरह से अहले मदीना को दो पयाम, लोगों खफा न हो मेरी रुखसत है सुबह शाम, दो चार दिन तुम्हारे महल्ले में है मकाम, रोने की धूम हो चुकी अब काम है तमाम, घबराती हूँ वतन में सफर के महीने से, बाबा सिधारे काम मुझे, बाबा सिधारे काम मुझे, बाबा सिधारे काम मुझे, क्या मदीने से बोली के आज रात को हो जाऊंगी बहार, कल मेरे कारोबार में तुम होंगे खुद निढाल, खिदमत का मेरे बच्चों की होगा किसे ख्याल, नहला धुला दिया के परेशान था उनका, नहला धुला दिया के परेशान था उनका, फिरते भी धोए खुद भी कल तक का दे चली, सहराना देखा एक सहराना देखा एक मान ले चले तो हर एक महल्ले में मैं शरबपा हुआ, अपने पराए दौड़े के है ये क्या हुआ, फिदा पुकारी सैयदा का वाक़या हुआ, हुजरा बतुल पाक का मातम सरा हुआ, हुजरा बतुल पाक का मातम सरा हुआ, माती खलक से देखने वालों की फट गई, मूरख के मुंह का मुर्दे के ज़ैन, मूरख के मुंह का मुर्दे के ज़ैन अब लिपट गए, मैं दूध बख्शवाने ना पाई के चल बसी, शरबत बना के लाने ना, पाई के चल बसी कुछ हाले दिल सुनाने ना, पाई के चल बसी मैं बेनसीबाने ना, पाई के चल बसी क्या जल्द तर जमाना हुआ इंतकाल का,
अभी तो सिंता कोला, अभी तो सिंता कोला, अभी तो सिंता कोला 18 साल का।
मेरी फाका कश मेरी नादार अम्मा जान, ऐ मेरी बेदवा मेरी बीमार अम्मा जा, काबे की आबरू मेरी सरदार अम्मा जा,
ऐ मेरी साबिरा मेरी नाचार अम्मा जान,
मेरी
साबिरा मेरी नाचार अम्मा जान।
नाम हुई तो थी कोई ताजा खिताब दो,
अम्मा जवाब दो मेरिया,
अम्मा
जवाब दो मेरिया,
अम्मा
जवाब दो मेरिया, अम्मा जवाब दो।
से सर खुले हैं नहीं सर पा टोपियां, कहते हैं कुछ तो मुंह से निकलता है हाय माल, लिखा है जब जनाजे पा पहुंचे वो नीम जा,
हसरत से देखा मुर्दे का मुहर ये की पुकार,
हसरत से
देखा मुर्दे का मुहर ये की पुकार,
हसरत से
देखा मुर्दे का मुहर ये की पुकार।
गुलाम आएगा रुखसत के वास्ते,
जाती हो तुम नबी की जिया,
जाती हो
तुम नबी की जिया,
जाती हो
तुम नबी की जियारत के वास्ते।
एक सूरह फातिहा सबिहा जाफरी इब्ने अली अकबर साहब और फैजान, बहुत बहुत आपका बयान, फैजान आपका बयान बहुत बहुत अच्छा था और अल्लाह आपको भी जो है और बरकत दे और आपके वेल बीइंग के लिए हम सब दुआ करते हैं। माशाल्लाह। एक सूरह फातिहा सबिहा जाफरी इब्ने सैयद अली अकबर, इसके बाद जो है हम अपना रेगुलर सेशन जारी रखेंगे वो संडे का। सो मौलाना सैयद फरहत हुसैन मूसवी नहजुल बलागा पे थोड़ा हाइलाइट्स करेंगे और इसका कैसा इसको स्लोली स्टार्ट करें हम दर्स नहजुल बलागा का सुनेंगे और हाउ टू स्टार्ट रीडिंग नहजुल बलागा। तो इंशाल्लाह उसके बाद जो है थोड़े मसाइब होंगे, फिर अपना प्रोग्राम जो है उसके बाद क्वेश्चन आंसर्स फॉलोड बाय क्वेश्चन आंसर। अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह। बिस्मिल्लाहिर रहमानिर रहीम।
शुरू करते हैं, चलिए। औज़ु बिल्लाहि मिनश शैतानिर रजीम, बिस्मिल्लाहिर रहमानिर रहीम, अल्हम्दुलिल्लाहि रब्बिल आलमीन वस्सलातु वस्सलामु अला रसूलिल मुसद्दद अल महमूद अल अहमद अश शफीउल मुज़नबीन خاتم الأنبياء والمرسلين أبو القاسم محمد
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد
وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين واللعنة دائمة على أعدائهم أجمعين من يوم هذا إلى يوم الدين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. كل من عليها فان. Beginning in the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Almighty, where He's declaring that everything is going to vanish one day from the face of the earth. And as we just heard that we are doing the Majlis for the Sawab of Sabiha Jafri, Marhooma and Maghfura, and may Allah elevate her position in heaven and bring that closer to Ahlul Bayt alayhimu salatu wasalam, who dedicated her life with Hassan Mamu, Nur Sayyid Nur Hassan Jafri Sahab Marhoom. May Allah give them both the light in their graves from the Nur of Muhammad and Ali Muhammad alayhimu salam. Now we are starting with the same discussion that we had last time about Nahjul Balagha. One of the greatest things that was done by Sayyid Razi was a very important aspect of it, was to talk, to gather all the sermons that he could get at that point in time and into a book, Nahjul Balagha, and present it to us in a manner so that it is remembered after the Holy Quran as a means of guidance. As the last time we talked about it, that this book has been distributed to many places in North America, and now obviously Europe and Australia and other continents. In Hindi also it has come, and the benefit we are getting from all directions. The question is, what is the Nahjul Balagha that was written by Allama Sayyid Muhammad Askari Jafri Sahab, and how do we look at that book? One of the best things that he did was he wrote about 100 pages about the book, about the author, which is Hazrat Ali alayhi salatu wasalam, the compiler, Sayyid Razi, and then the translation itself and how he came about doing the translation in Karachi and the difficulties that he went through, and finally it was done. He was, and Allama Askari Jafri Sahab was sad that it could not be completed in the life of Muhammad Ali Habib, who started and initiated the work. But again, as we know, that it's an amazing book. If you look at those, if you start reading the Nahjul Balagha, and we are talking about the edition Peak of Eloquence published by Islamic Seminary and other places, it's amazing that if you look at I'll go through some of the earlier chapters of the book. As I said, the first 100 pages is going to change the thinking of our youngsters forever, because he has done very good work. And this preface, as has been called in that translation, is been copied by many people in many of their own translations in English also. So this thing that is there, the 100 pages, cannot be duplicated by anyone up to this point in time. It's an amazing presentation of what happened. He starts with the book. The translation is starting with the first preface, as I said, is 100 pages. The book is the translation of the sermons, letters, orders, and some of the sayings of Hazrat Ali alayhi salam as compiled by Sayyid Razi and named Nahjul Balagha. So this is some of the sayings. As we see, there are many, many volumes in Jame Azhar in Egypt also about the sermons of Hazrat Ali alayhi salam. It has been compiled there also throughout the time. Some of the people take it upon themselves to read it on a daily basis to get a taste of the Arabic language. The presentation is amazing, as we all know. Sayyid Razi is the one who died in 90 Hijri. So by the time it was already, we are looking at that, there is the dawn of the 2nd century, things started to change. People had started collecting it. So it's not something which was done many years later, but it has been taken, that work had been taken up initially also. And if you look at that, Sheikh Mufid in the 5th century has quoted many sermons and hadiths and letters of Hazrat. And Sayyid Razi, who died in 420 Hijri, compiled the book Nahjul Balagha. And after that, Sheikh Tusi in 460, he had collected some of the sermons also. But the amazing part of it is what Sayyid Razi has done was not duplicated by anyone. The interesting thing is, if you look at Nahjul Balagha, it's been combined there are 480 sermons. Some were lost, and Sayyid Razi could lay hands on about 245 sermons. Besides them, he collected 75 letters and more than 200 sayings of Imam Ali alayhi salatu wasalam. Almost everything what Sayyid Razi has done had been collected before in different ways. So what we are looking is at a very authentic book that we have in our hand, done with a lot of hard work and very nice presentation so that it remains with us for centuries to come. And now that was, as I said, 6 pages have been written about the book itself and how it was compiled. And some interesting things about the book is some of the people later on, they tried to claim, they were claiming that some of the ideas that have come, the words that have come are from Persian language. And our ulama have replied that very nice manner. In a very nice manner, they have replied. They said that everything that you see is authentic, is from the Arabic language. And there's a whole books have been written on that subject, outlining how each word of the Nahjul Balagha, which is supposed to be from, we are talking about that coming from a different place, from Persian or something. They have said that, no, it's not coming from Persian. It's not coming from any other. It's all Arabic. And the words have been used in Arabic literature before. So we had, through the ages, got to justify that. And the Imams, all our Imams have seen this book. If you look at that, the writings that have been taken is those that have been approved by our Aimma Athhar alayhim salam in their sayings also. So Nahjul Balagha is coming to us from the most, most authentic sources, alhamdulillah. And that's why it's considered to be second to the Holy Quran in its greatness. Some of the times you'll be amazed if you read in Arabic that sometimes Imam Ali alayhi salam has used the Holy Quran in such a manner, it'll be hard to distinguish where the Quran finishes and where we are starting the words of Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wasalam. The second part of about the author, Hazrat Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam, that has been written by Allama Askari Jafri Sahab, is amazing. He has gone right from the genealogy of Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam, the birth of Imam and the birth in the Holy Kaaba, and he's given all the references as we go along. So as I said, this first 100 pages would be a very good start for anyone going into Nahjul Balagha to find out the greatness of our Imam alayhi salam. If you look at the what has been done, and we are talking about different aspects. One of the things, the Holy Prophet and Hazrat Ali alayhi salam, how they loved each other. And the Holy Prophet loved Ali alayhi salam, and he never separated for an hour unless Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam went out of the house for some work. I never saw a father love his son so much as the Holy Prophet loved Imam Ali. I never saw a son so obedient, so attached, and so loving to his father as Ali was to Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. This is Ibn Abil Hadid, Mutawali, a Sunni author, and he is quoting other instances of the greatness and the closeness of the Holy Prophet and Hazrat Ali alayhi salatu wasalam. And it is at the life history of Imam Ali has been presented very nicely. Ali started acting as the bodyguard of the Holy Prophet even when he was just a boy of 13 or 14 years. So the Prophet waited 30 years. He did not announce. The Prophet waited for Hazrat Ali alayhi salatu wasalam to be born and to be of that age that he could defend the Prophet, because the Prophet was Rahmatul lil Alameen. He could not defend himself. He could not hurt anyone. He cannot reply to anyone and the Prophet never took the sword because he was sent as a blessing to mankind. This is the greatest thing about our Holy Prophet. And that's why he needed Hazrat Ali alayhi salam to protect. But at the age of 13 years, Imam Ali alayhi salatu wasalam was so grown up that he was able to defend the Holy Prophet of Islam from the other people and the children that were harassing him. And now he's talking about the character of from the biggest authors around. We are talking about George Jordan, who died recently. We're talking about 1960. This book was written. Nahjul Balagha was translated in 1960. This is the edition that I have with me. And that you look at that, so many instances of piety are being shown. The famous Egyptian scholar of Al-Azhar, Muhammad Mustafa Bek Najib, in his famous book, Himayatul Islam, says, what can be said about this Imam? It is very difficult to fully explain his attributes and qualities. It is enough to realize that the Holy Prophet had named him the gateway of knowledge and wisdom. He was the most learned, the most brave, and the most eloquent speaker and orator. His piety, his love of God, his sincerity and fortitude in following religion were of such high order that none could aspire to reach him. He was the greatest politician because he hated diplomacy and loved truth and justice. His was the policy as taught by God. And he was the best in judgment. He had no fear of anyone except that of God. He was loved by all, and everyone has a place for him in his heart. Another philosopher and historian, Ustad Muhammad Kamil Hatta, pays his tributes in the following words. His life is an agglomeration of pleasing incidents, bloody encounters, and sad episodes. His personality is very important, an account of his transcendency and high qualities. Here he's talking about Imam Ali. You'll feel that Ali was an Imam in battlefield, a leader in politics. He was an Imam in religion, and also an Imam in ethics, philosophy, literature, and learning, and in wisdom. It is not difficult for God to create such a person. The historian John Poole, author of the life of Queen Victoria, in the book Studies in Mohammedanism, says, this prince was a man of mild and forbearing character, wise in counsel and bold in war. Muhammad had given him the surname of the Lion of God, Asadullah. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. These are the people that we should be telling the whole world about the greatness of our Ahlul Bayt that have been coming from the mouth of those people who are well known in the Western world. John Poole says, Ali and his sons Hassan and Hussain were truly noblemen, men of righteousness, men of a brave, humble, and a forgiving spirit. Their lives deserve to be commemorated, for there was a peculiar pathos about them which we are not spent selfishly or in vain. As Matthew Arnold says, the sufferers of Karbala had aloft to the eyes of millions the lesson so loved by the sufferer of Calvary, that representation of crucifixion. Learn of me, for I am meek and lowly in heart, and you shall find rest unto your soul. This says, Ali was a scholar himself, and many of his wise sayings and proverbs are published in a book. It is a remarkable work and deserves to be more widely read in the West. So we are looking at the greatness that is coming from the sayings of Maula Ali alayhi salam, from the sermons of Maula Ali, from the letters. So if you look at that, I advise you to pay. This is going on from page number 70 to 89 pages. And Allama Askari Jafri Sahab had distributed it differently. He's talking about one of the aspects, his wife, children, and home life. Amazing. Their only luxury in life was prayers and the company of each other and their children. And they willingly shared the sorrows and sufferings of poor. They were given a slave girl, Fiza, but the Holy Prophet had arrangement that every alternate day was the off day of Fiza, and her mistress would do all the household work. And even when Hazrat Fatima was ill on Fiza's off day, Fiza would not be allowed to attend to the duties, but Hazrat Ali alayhi salam would work. And the hero of Badr, Uhud, Khandaq, Khaybar, and Hunain was seen grinding oats, lightening the oven, preparing the bread, and looking after the children. This is the life of Maula Ali alayhi salatu wasalam, which is a lesson for all of us. And Salman says, what a household, the only daughter of the Holy Prophet and wife of his vicegerent, leading the life of a poor laborer. If they had spent 1/10 of what they were distributing daily, they would have led a life of ease and comfort. So we are talking about they had wealth. Hazrat Fatima Salamullah alayha has 7 gardens in Medina, but all the wealth would be given to the poor because they knew this world is transcending. It's going to go away in a few days. And that's what we mourn. From Hazrat Ali, the Lady of Light had 4 children, and the 5th, Mohsin, was a stillbirth. The causes of this mishap and also of her death are very sad and pathetic incidents of their lives. The names of these 4 children were Hassan, Hussain, Zainab, Kulsum, and Mohsin. And Allama Askari Jafri Sahab has talked about Hazrat Ali's behavior with his foes, with his enemies, how he behaved with them. Talha and Zubair were not only a bitter enemy of Islam, but was personal enemy of the Holy Prophet and Ali alayhi salam. And here, how he dealt with them. He has shown very nicely how he had 2 people who were slaves, Khambar and Sa'id. Khambar related that very seldom had the occasion to serve his master. Hazrat used to do his work himself, used to wash his own clothing, even used to patch whenever needed. He would draw water from the well for his daily use. He would give them good food and decent dresses and would himself eat and dress like a very poor man. Let alone whipping or beating, he never even got angry with us. He never used a cane even on his horse, camel or mule. These animals apparently understood his mood and desire and would trot and walk as he wished them to do. Continuing, Khambar said, once and only once was a chance that he found out that I have hoarded some money, and Imam says, why are you hoarding the money? You know, this money that you have has got to be distributed to the poor and needy. And it's a very interesting thing. If you look at this first part, I recommend that everyone in the family, members, and they should read the first 100 pages and get an idea of the greatness of Hazrat Ali alayhi salatu wasalam as presented by the author here. And you would be amazed at the life of Hazrat Ali alayhi salam, his personal life, and the important occasions that Hazrat Ali alayhi salam was given the chance to be there in his services to the Prophet and Islam. The first was the Prophet was ordered to preach Islam openly. For 3 years, the Holy Prophet was preaching Islam under absolute secrecy. At the end of the 3rd year, he received orders to preach his near relations. The Prophet directed Ali to prepare food for them and get them all come out and listen to him. And it was an amazing thing. The Prophet declared his sacred character and said, who wants to be my lieutenant, wazir, and as Aaron was to Moses. The assembly remained mute with astonishment, not one venturing to accept the offered perilous office, until Ali stood up and claimed, O Prophet, I will, though I am indeed the youngest of those present, the most weak of them as to the eyes, and to the slenderest of them as to the legs. I, O Prophet, will be thy wazir over them. On which, throwing his arms around the generous and courageous youth and pressing him to his bosom, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam declared, behold my brother and my wazir, and obey him. John Davenport, in the book An Apology for Muhammad and Quran, he's writing this incident. So everyone knew that this Dawat is Zul Ashira, where the Prophet was commanded by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to invite them. He declared Imam Ali alayhi salatu wasalam as his vicegerent, wazir, and his khalifa. So that was all decided in history very early, when Imam Ali was at that time 13, 14 years old. Many historians are of the opinion that this was a momentous declaration, the first and the greatest service done to the cause of Islam. If the appeal of the Holy Prophet was then left unanswered, the propagation of Islam would have been nipped in the bud. They say Imam Ali did not stand at that moment and say, I am there to support you, to second the Prophet. Islam would have been nipped in the bud right at that time. And people they started to laugh at both of them and dispersed, advising Ali's father to obey his youngest son from that day onward. This is something, if you look at that, even they knew that what the Prophet said was to obey Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam is wajib. That's why even the kuffar, even the people who do not believe in Islam, and Abu Jahl, Abu Lahab, they all knew that what the Prophet is declaring is from now on, Ali alayhi salam has to be obeyed. And they were turning to Abu Talib alayhi salam and saying, "Oh Abu Talib, you have to obey your son also. You have to obey your son also." So this is nothing hidden. Everyone knew. And the second great occasion was when the Prophet was forced to leave Mecca, making somebody stay in his place. And that moment, Imam Ali alayhi salatu wasalam laid down on the bed of the Prophet of Islam. He looked the same as Hazrat Ali alayhi salam. He looked at the same manner because the same nur that was coming from the Prophet was coming from Hazrat Ali alayhi salam. And the whole night he slept, even though those people had come, 40 tribes had come to kill him. And that was a very important occasion in the history of Islam, that Imam Ali sacrificed his life. And that's where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him the chance so that he could present the teachings of Islam to us. And as we are looking at that, we will be going into a little bit of detail about the Holy Nahjul Balagha also. I've talked about that before also, that and the compiler, there's something about 5 pages about the compiler, Sayyid Razi. And amazing things have been done here in this foreword that has been written in the preface. Death of Hazrat Fatima Salamullah Alaiha. Allama Askari Jafri Sahab has taken very important references from the book of Ahl al-Sunnah and the Muslim brothers, and decided how Hazrat Ali alayhi salatu wasalam was at that time. The last days of the Hazrat Fatima Salamullah Alaiha were very important, because he was saying, and he says, one of the some things that we have talked about, that she had pain in the ribs in her hand, and that the fever had come down. Then she started bathing the children. Immediately Ali and Fiza came to her assistance. She got those children bathed, dressed and fed, then sent them away to her cousin. Then she asked Hazrat Ali to be on her side and said, "Ali, my dear husband, you know very well why I did all that. Please excuse my fussiness. They have suffered so much with me and during my illness that I want to see them happy on the last day of my life. Yes, Ali, you know also that this is the last day of my life. I am happy and also I am sad. Happy that troubles will shortly be over and I shall meet my father, and sorry I am to part with you. After me, you marry anybody you like, but you must marry my cousin Yamama because she takes care of my children. Let Fiza remain with you even after marriage. And she desires, if she desires, I loved her like my daughter. Ali, bury me in the night and do not let those who have been so cruel to me attend the burial. Let my death do not dishearten you. You have to serve Islam and humanity for a long time to come. Let not my sufferings embitter you. Promise me, O Ali. Hazrat Ali said, yes, Fatima, I promise. Ali, she continued, I know how you love my children, but be very careful of Hussein. He loves me dearly and will miss me sadly. Be a mother unto him. Till my recent illness, he used to sleep on my chest. He is already missing it. Ali was caressing the broken hand. His heart and big tears dropped on her hand. She looked up and said, do not weep, Ali. I know with a rough outward appearance what a tender heart you possess. You have already borne too much and will have to bear more. Farewell, my lord. Farewell, my dear husband. Farewell, Ali. Say goodbye to me. Sorrow had choked Ali. His words were mixed with tears, and he said, goodbye, Fatima. Hearing this, she said, may the merciful Lord help you to bear their sorrows and sufferings patiently. Now let me be alone with my God. And this is how she left the world. So we are talking that he was a very good presenter, Allama Askari Jafri Sahab of the Masab of Ahl al-Bayt alayhimus salam. He is talking in detail about each important part of the history, from 12th Hijri to 24th Hijri, how he was there, how he saw everything happen, and how people change in their life. And Hazrat Ali alayhi salatu wasalam life was something we have to be very, very careful of to understand. It's a very basic part of our life, the life of Hazrat Ali alayhi salam. And that's why Allama Askari Jafri Sahab spent so much time on that. And I'm pretty sure he must have taken a long time to write this, the foreword. And it has become a standard now that wherever the translations are coming, this foreword is being copied even by other translators. They realize that something has gone into it, and he has worked a lot of time. This has not been compiled within a few days or within a few years. When we look at his manuscript, we will know how much time he has taken to get all of these together. And now we talk about the translation of the Nahjul Balagha. He says, can you imagine the plight of a man who can barely swim 20 yards, jumping into the English Channel to swim from Dover to Calais, France? If you can, then you can very well realize the futile rashness of my attempt to translate this august and noble work. He's showing his humbleness. He says, this amazing book is very hard to translate because each word can have 18 to 20 meanings in the Arabic language. And Allama Askari Jafri Sahab is talking about that. He says, he believed in the saying of Imam Jafar Sadiq, there are ways to reach the sublimity of his realm. He once told me to translate the book in one of the ways for achieving the great aim. So he's saying how it all started and how the translation went through. And my work can never be the best of its kind. His reply was, he's talking about Muhammad Ali Habib, how he encouraged him. He says, we know that there could be better translations. You're not doing the final one, but he says, please take up the work. And personally, I feel that it's really noble to serve as a humble stepping stone for the sublime height of a great cause, or a footprint serving as a waymark towards sacred ideals. After some time, he took up the subject. When he still found me hesitating, he said, I know with you, it is a struggle between your vanity and your sense of duty. You are afraid that people might ridicule your poor performance. Humble yourself before the Lord, seek his help and do your duty. Thus inspired and emboldened, I started the translation. The man who thus emboldened me was Muhammad Ali Habib. He's talking about Muhammad Ali Habib started to tell him and encourage him. And you look at this part, who's talking about a very interesting thing. Now, like I never saw him coming to the mosque well dressed, and during the prayers, he was often amidst the poor and lowly. I'm sorry that this translation could not be printed in his lifetime. My lengthy illness, consequent upon an accident which laid me low with broken ribs, and subsequent operation kept me away from this work for so long. By the time I would come back to it, he was no more amongst us. So I guess the family members of Qalunan Askari Jafri Sahab would know that he was in an accident, and the ribs had been broken, and he had to suspend the work for a little while. Beside this noble being who inspired me, there are few more persons of whom I am greatly obliged for the help which I received from them. So he's talking about some of the people that helped him, and he's talking about, and he's requesting that Lord reward them for their work. And the work that he has taken, the bibliography, he mentioned very detailed bibliography, decline and fall of the Roman Empire, Edward Gibbon. If you read the bibliography, you would know what important books have been written by Western authors about Islam, which I think we are obliged to know in this place that we are, some of the generation of Allama Askari Jafri Sahab are living in North America and Europe, America, US, Canada, Europe, Australia, and different places. We have to know this thing. He is talking about the great books that have been written. The Justice Amir Ali has written the book, The Spirit of Islam. And Simon Oakley has written The History of Saracen. Osborne, Islam under the Arabs. Osner is a translation from French. Eric Schroeder, Muhammad's People, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam's. Edward Gibbon, The Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire. Stanley Lane Poole, Selections from Quran. And finally, John Davenport, an apology for Muhammad and the Quran. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. This was written, and Sayyid Muhammad Askari Jafri, at the end of this 99 pages, he's saying, Karachi, November 1960. So this work was finished in November 1960. And I think each one of us, each one of his relatives should know when the first book came out. It is in Karachi in the year 1960. It was finished and presented. So, inshallah, now let's go into the Nahjul Balagha itself and see what it contains. Why is this book so important, so amazing? You know, as I said last time, my uncle, Khalu, Dr. Sayyid Mehdi Hassan Jafri, he completed the subject-wide index to the sermons in Nahjul Balagha of Hazrat Ali alayhi salam. And what he has done is, he has started by saying it is not possible to furnish a single caption to a sermon. Varied subjects have been dealt within a sermon. So the sermon has different things, not exactly it's on a subject-wide basis, because these were delivered in the Masjid of Kufa on practically on a daily basis. Some of the sermons were a few minutes in length, depending what it was about, preparation of the war, preparation of the people to do good work, or it would be detailed in nature, depending on the questions that were asked of him. So the varied subjects have been dealt within a sermon. And what he has done is, he has done the subjects have been clarified with few additional words so that the reader may have a clear idea of the content. So what Dr. Mehdi Hassan Jafri Sahab has done in the index is he has taken the alphabetical index. So it's very easy for everyone to understand and read. As I mentioned the last time, I gave it to an Indonesian brother who had become Muslim, and then after reading this, after being explained, in detail for a few hours and reading the Nahjul Balagha, my advice to him was that do not start reading from wherever you want to. Go to the index. Go to the index that we have. I gave him the index. I said, read the index, and according to the choice of your subject, read it. And once you read it that way, you will know right away what Imam Ali alayhi salam is saying on the subject of your choice. Not that you start reading the whole 200 and odd khutbahs. It is better this way. And alhamdulillah, they read it for a few days and they came back and said, after the Quran, we find the knowledge, so immense knowledge that's been ingrained in this book, and we have accepted the faith of Hazrat Ali alayhi salatu wasalam and his noble sons, and they have become the followers and Shias of Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. And as a matter of fact, he took a Chinese translation of the Holy Quran we had and started propagating it in different places. Actually, he was doing propagation when we was visiting through his company. His company has opened a branch in Pakistan, and in Pakistan also they were doing that preaching there to the other members of his group, Chinese, Indonesians, and others, mashallah. And this is a duty. A lot of Chinese are coming in Pakistan now. A lot of them are coming. And it is amazing what you can do. How much you can do. How much work we can do here. As I said, a Buddhist monk has said, if we had Nahjul Balagha in our hand, he says, there wouldn't be a single person on the earth who is not a Buddhist. This is amazing things that are there in the holy Nahjul Balagha, and we are not benefiting from that. The worst thing, we are not even ourselves finding out what it is. So inshallah, I hope our next generation will give more importance to this and we'll make it presentable. Inshallah, we'll present the Nahjul Balagha in a different manner with all the sermons written on the top. Every khutbah would know the meaning, and there should be a running title on every page. Otherwise, it's dull and drab reading. If you look at the edition, there's nothing on the title. We know what you're reading. A person, when he's flipping the pages, he should know what he's reading in the Nahjul Balagha, because that'll come in his mind. That'll settle in his mind what are the subjects. So,
Moulana, Masab के ऊपर आ जाएं तो Masab इंशाल्लाह थोड़े से जनाबे फातिमा के Masab शुरू कर देंगे. So time is around 1 hour. So inshallah, please.
Okay. Yes. So now, as we have seen, that we'll talk about death. Hazrat Ali's khutbah about death is a very small one. I'll just read that and hope that we will benefit from it. In khutbah number 25, as we are doing the series, let's start that. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Hazrat has explained how and from whom we can take lessons to model or shape our lives. If you only had true conception of what would happen after death, you would have screamed with horror and trembled with fright and would have readily obeyed the commandments. But what the dead has seen is hidden from our eyes. Nevertheless, in everybody's life, the time is not far off when this curtain will rise and death will knock at his door. Had you really a desire to see, a wish to hear, and a longing to learn, Islam has depicted vivid images, has given true accounts, and has tried to explain effectively and simply of what is going to be the end of life and what is to happen after death. It is a truth which I repeat, that Islam has shown you a way out of these horrors, explaining to you what to do and what not to do. Apart from the teachings of Islam, have not the histories of nations and lives of great men enough material in them for you to take warning from? Have they not explained to you that the outcome of life is death and where death would lead to? Who could, beside the heavenly prophets, be better messengers of God to man than the history of man itself? So the Imam Ali is saying history of the human beings itself to be a lesson for us. If you look at the history, this is Hazrat Ali alayhi salatu wasalam, and we see the difficulties and troubles that he went through and his family went through. And you look at that, as I was just describing, that Allama Askari Jafri Sahab was talking about the last day of Hazrat Fatima Salamullah alayha, how she was preparing the children, how she was feeding the children and giving them food, and then remembering that Hussein alayhi salam, there would be a day when Hussein would not have something to eat for up to 3 days without water. And can you imagine how Imam Hussein, when he entered the tent, how the bibis, how the ladies of the house of the Prophet would not even show any thirst, any hunger. They knew Hussein himself was in difficulty. It was the children who were crying for water. It was the children who were asking for food. And Hussein alayhi salam had to explain to them that we are fighting for a cause. We are sacrificing our life for a cause. And that moment were there in the life of Hazrat Fatima. The last day was amazing. The day she was remembering the day when the Prophet left this world. At that time, Hazrat Fatima was there near the Prophet. And the Prophet asked Fatima to listen to him. And she brought her ear next to the Prophet's mouth. She listened to something, she cried, and then she smiled a little bit. And the people asked what happened. She said, I'm crying for my father is leaving me. And then I'm happy that I'll be the first one to meet my father. And the Fatima left this world in such a way that she had broken ribs. And her hand had been injured in a way that it could never be straightened. In that moment, Hazrat Ali alayhi salam, when the door was falling on her, Hazrat Ali alayhi salam was helping her. At that moment, they tied Ali and took him. Hazrat Ali alayhi salam was showing patience that has been commanded from the Prophet. And he said, the Prophet has said, for us, Ahl al-Bayt, this is not the world. For us, it's the next world. And then Imam Hussain alayhi salam, when the body of Fatima Salamullah alayha was lying there, the kafan had been given. And Imam Ali says, come for the last moment, for the last didar, to see your mother for the last time. Everyone came. Hussein did not come. Imam Ali asked, Hazrat Ali says, Hussein, why are you not coming? Hussein alayhi salam says, when Maryam, Holy Mary, went away and was dying, she called Hazrat Isa to come, Jesus to come and met her. And the same thing would happen. I want my mother to call me. And suddenly the kafan was broken, the ties of the coffin were broken, and Imam Hussain came and embraced Fatima Zahra Salamullah alayha. The angels came and told Ali ibn Abi Talib, you have to remove Hussain, because all the angels in the heaven and the skies, they are in a state of commotion, because they could not see Fatima leaving this world, and Hussain crying. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. سيعلم الذين ظلموا أيام منقلب ينقلبون. या अल्लाह हमारी इस इबादत को कबूल फरमा, मेरे मालिक माबूद, तुझे वास्ता है अपनी इज्जत और जलालत का। मेरे मालिक, जिस मरहुमा के लिए सबीहा जाफरी मरहुमा बिनते सैयद अली अकबर मरहूम के लिए जो मजलिस की गई है, इसका सवाब उनको पहुँचे और उसकी वजह से उनके बुलंदी दर्जात हो। या अल्लाह उनकी बरज़ख की मंजिलों को आसान फरमा, खुदाया उनसे सवाल और जवाब की मंजिल को आसान फरमा। और मेरे मालिक व माबूद, उनकी कब्र में नूर मोहम्मद व आले मोहम्मद को उजागर फरमा। खानदान है जो खिदमत दीन कर रहा था, और नूर हसन जाफरी साहब, और ये जो वहाँ पर इमाम बारगाह और इमाम बाड़ा चलाते हैं हज़रत अब्बास अलैहिस्सलाम का, यकीनन हज़रत अब्बास उनके काम आएंगे और बरज़ख में आसानी होगी, और बुलंदी दर्जात की दुआ करते हैं हम। और जो लोग यहाँ सुन रहे हैं, हमारे सब मरहुमीन, उनके लिए भी अस्करी जाफरी साहब और रजिया बेगम साहिबा मरहुमा और तमाम मौजूद हैं यहाँ लोग, उनके जो मरहुमीन है, खुदाया उन सबको बुलंदी दर्जात अता फरमा। या अल्लाह तुझे वास्ता है अपनी इज्जत और जलालत का, जो हमारी आइंदा आने वाली नस्लें हैं, उनको दीन मोहम्मद व आले मोहम्मद पे गामजन रख। मेरे मालिक व माबूद, हमको कुरान और नहजुल बलागा पढ़ने और समझने की तौफीक अता फरमा। या अल्लाह मेरे मालिक व माबूद, हज व ज़ियारत से मुशर्रफ फरमा, मुक़ामात मुक़द्दसा की हिफाजत फरमा, और दुश्मनान दीन खुदा को निस्तो नाबूद फरमा। मेरे मालिक व माबूद, जल्द अज जल्द हमारे वक्त के इमाम ज़माने अलैहिस्सलातु वस्सलाम का ज़ुहूर फरमा। या अल्लाह हम सब की तौफीक़ात में इजाफा फरमा। मेरे मालिक व माबूद, एक मरतबा सूरह हम और 3 मरतबा सूरह इखलास पढ़ के तमाम मरहुमीन और ख़ास तौर पर सबीहा जाफरी बिनते सैयद अली अकबर मरहूम की रूह को शाद फरमाइए। बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम, अल्हम्दुलिल्लाहि रब्बिल आलमीन, अर्रहमानिर्रहीम, मालिकी यौमिद्दीन, इय्याका नअबुदु व इय्याका नस्तईन, इहदिनस सिरातल मुस्तक़ीम, सिरातल लज़ीना अनअमता अलैहिम गैरिल मग़ज़ूबि अलैहिम वलद्दाल्लीन। बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम, क़ुल हुवल्लाहु अहद, अल्लाहुस समद, लम यलिद वलम यूलद वलम यकुल लहू कुफुवन अहद। बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम, क़ुल हुवल्लाहु अहद, अल्लाहुस समद, लम यलिद वलम यूलद वलम यकुल लहू कुफुवन अहद। बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम, क़ुल हुवल्लाहु अहद, अल्लाहुस समद, लम यलिद वलम यूलद वलम यकुल लहू कुफुवन अहद। अल्लाहुम्मा सल्लि अला मुहम्मद व आले मुहम्मद। इस फातिहा का सवाब मरहुमा की रूह को पहुंचे इंशाअल्लाह। अल्लाहुम्मा सल्लि अला मुहम्मद व आले मुहम्मद।
All the participants, there will be a question answer session for 10 minutes. If you have any suggestions, any thing you want to say, please unmute your mic, and then we will have the salam. If Abbas Mirza wants to end the meeting, he could recite some salam. And please come unmute your mic, and if you have any questions, please another 10 minutes. Thank you. Yes, are you able to listen to my announcement?
Yeah, we can hear you just
any
fine.
question answers? Any suggestions?
Assalamualaikum, it's Akina from New Jersey. I have a question. Barjaja, you're saying that there is a pamphlet that says which verses are what topic. Where can people get that?
Oh, okay. Yes, I have. I scanned the booklet, but we can get it printed. I don't know. It's a very small booklet. As I said, 16 pages, very nicely done. So we can make photocopies anytime now, today, even today, tomorrow, and then send it out. That will be one way. The other thing is I have a scanned version of this, which I can give to I know Mustafa Moosavi, and inshallah he can distribute to whoever wants. You can send your request to Mustafa Moosavi, inshallah, and we can send that this subject-wide index to the sermons of Nahjul Balagha. That would be a very big help for all of us, inshallah. It's very nice topics have been dealt about, everything. We are talking about animals, the creation of animals, and human beings, human behavior, diplomacy, destiny. Very nice work. So we can send it out.
The scan version might be good to spread, this message.
Yes, inshallah we can do that. Yes. Okay, we can send it out to everyone that we know. That this should be given to everyone who has Nahjul Balagha. We always distribute with our copies here.
Nice.
Inshallah.
So thanks for participating this in every Sunday program, and we all pray for the participants' health and well-being, and also for Maulana Sayyid Farhat Hussain Moosavi for his effort and time, and what our grandfather Sayyid Muhammad Askari Jafri has done close to 50 years ago. We are trying to study this book and gain whatever knowledge we can. And for the next Sunday, Maulana bhai, आपके पास कुछ homework है for the participants if they want to study. I know this 100 pages of preface or forward, and apart from that, do you have any suggestions?
Yeah, I would like to find out what topics people are interested in. If you look at the index, that would know, and anything that we want to find out from them for practical things in this life. So if someone wants to suggest what topics should we be talking about, then we can, look at what Maula has said at that time and how it relates to us at this point in time. Like the letter 53 to Malik Ashtar is very practical. I was suggesting that letter is not to run a government only, but we can run our groups that we have, associations, organizations should be run on that basis. I'll try to do that, because a lot of our people in our family are running institutions by the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Canada, America, in Hyderabad, and they all have to be run on the lines of Maula Ali alayhi salatu wasalam, what he has suggested to Malik Ashtar. I'll be dealing with that, and that will be helpful for other organizations also. We will send this out to other people, how to run our organization according to Hazrat Ali alayhi salam to make it successful.
And this video of this meeting today will be, you could see this on the YouTube. So we are trying to just focus on Nahjul Balagha. It won't be a full majlis, but this Nahjul Balagha session will be on YouTube, and someone who is not attending this due to some reason, you could tell their friends or contacts to go and listen to this, and then we will have inshallah slowly, step by step, trying to understand the Nahjul Balagha. And Maulana Sahab, भाई भी बोलता हूँ आपको, तो भाई भी हैं आप मेरे, तो just Allah give you more knowledge and more tawfiq and health, and to you and your family. Jazakallah.
अली भाई की मजलिस बहुत अच्छी होती है, बहुत अच्छा पढ़ते हैं अली भाई। मैं मेहर बोल रही पाकिस्तान से।
अच्छा माशाल्लाह माशाल्लाह,
बहुत अच्छा पढ़ते हैं अली भाई, आप बहुत अच्छा पढ़ते हैं। वेरी गुड वेरी गुड।
जी शुक्रिया। वहाँ भी आप अपने लोगों को तैयार करिए, जो रिश्तेदार हैं और जो भी कॉन्टैक्ट्स हैं, सबको लाइए इस सेशंस के लिए। और ये सेशन जो है पूरे हर बंदा, हर फर्ज, नौजवान, बूढ़े और हर इंसान को जो है इसमें शरीक होना चाहिए। और स्लोली इंशाल्लाह आहिस्ता आहिस्ता हम जो है इसका इल्म एक से दूसरे को पास हो रहा है, और आपके नाना जो पास हुआ है इधर, तो हम उसको और आगे बढ़ाते जाएंगे। तो जो भी क्वेश्चन आंसर्स है आप मेरे जीमेल पे इसको वो करिए, या कई ग्रुप्स हैं उसके सिलसिले में, उसके थ्रू भी जो है आप इंफॉर्मेशन हमें दे सकते हैं। आपके सजेशंस आर वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट इंशाल्लाह भाई।
ओके ओके
ओके, माशाल्लाह।
चलिए भाई।
मौसवी साहब, तो फिर मैं इसकी लाइव रिकॉर्डिंग रोक दूं?
अब वो सलाम पढ़ा रहे, कोई
सलाम
पढ़ा
पढ़ा।
अच्छा, मैं मुस्तफा मैं पढ़ सकता हूँ, ज़ियारत पढ़ना है ना?
हाँ, छोटी सी।
अस्सलामु अलैका या नबी अल्लाह, अस्सलामु अलैका या खैर खल्क़िही मुहम्मदनिल मुस्तफ़ा, अस्सलामु अलैका या अमीन अल्लाह, अस्सलामु अलैका या अमीरल मोमिनीन अलीनिल मुर्तज़ा, अस्सलामु अलैकी या कुर्रत ऐनिर रसूल या उम्मल हसन वल हुसैन या फातिमत ज़हरा, अस्सलामु अलैका या अबा अब्दुल्लाहिल हुसैन शहीद, अस्सलामु अलैकुम या अइम्मतिल हुदा अली ज़ैनुल आबिदीन मुहम्मदनिल बाक़िर जाफ़रन सादिक़ मूसल कादिम अलियन रदा मोहम्मदन तकी अलियन नकी अल हसन अल अस्करी, अस्सलामु अलैका या साहिबल अस्र व ज़मान, अस्सलामु अलैका या वली अम्र अल क़ाइमिल मुंतज़र अल महदी, अस्सलामु अलैकुम या सादाती व मवालिया जमीअन व रहमतुल्लाहि व बरकातुहू।
Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. So inshallah, see you next Sunday and Toronto time, and Pakistan and India time 9:30 and 9 o'clock, same time, inshallah.
अच्छा, ये शॉर्ट, उसको और शॉर्ट करना क्या, ये इतनी काफी है? 45-50 मिनट्स या और कम करना, मुझे तो फर्क नहीं पड़ता।
बिल्कुल, ये ठीक
सही है, इतनी सही है।
ठीक है।